Hello, everyone. I'm Randy Arrington, and welcome to the 45th episode of Page Valley Living. We're here today in the art studio and home of Joe Winslow, who lives just north of Luray, to talk about this veteran's military service, as well as his artistic abilities and the intersection of the two. And also, back in mid-September, a new World War I memorial was unveiled up in Washington, D.C. Among the images contained in the 60-foot linear sculpture was a likeness of Winslow, who posed for sculptor Sabin Howard. We'll talk about that experience and a whole lot more in just a moment. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor. At Luray Caverns, the Smithsonian Institution said, quote, "It is safe to say there is probably no other cave in the world more completely and profusely decorated than that of Luray. Come see Mother Nature showing off, only at Luray Caverns. Visit them online at luraycaverns.com to plan your trip today." Episode 45 of Page Valley Living is being recorded on Veterans Day, Monday, November the 11th, and will air on Wednesday, November the 13th. We'll be talking today with Luray veteran and sculptor Joe Winslow about his military memories, what Veterans Day means to him, and his sculpting background and what he's learned in the world of art as well, and also what it was like to pose for the World War I Memorial. We'll talk about all that and more in just a few moments. But first, let's check out this week's headlines. And now looking back at the week that was in the Page Valley. While Stanley Mayor Michael Knight held off a write-in campaign by Councilman Doug Purdom by more than 100 ballots, and the voters in Luray selected Councilmember Stephanie Lillard as their next mayor over fellow Councilman Ron Vickers by more than 200 votes, the folks in the town of Stanley still have yet to learn who their mayor will be in January. It's been more than a week since the polls closed, but the Page County Electoral Board met on Tuesday afternoon to finalize all local ballots. That includes all provisional ballots and correcting any mathematical errors. The winner of the Shenandoah mayor's seat is expected to be Councilman Chris Reisinger, after write-in votes totaled more than the ballots for incumbent Clinton Lucas. The official announcement is expected this week. Early Friday morning, a fire was reported at a home on Stony Run Road, about 3 miles southwest of Stanley, causing an estimated $50,000 in damage. No injuries were reported, but the fire is believed to have started near a space heater. Firefighters were able to keep the fire contained to one bedroom, but the rest of the home suffered smoke and water damage. The American Red Cross is assisting Angela Spain and Brittany McCoy with new living arrangements. The home was owned by Gwen Jewell of Luray. On Saturday, the U.S. Forest Service reported a fire in the Elizabeth Furnace area in the northern region of the George Washington National Forest. The fire was estimated at 30 acres and was being monitored by 2 helicopters. On Tuesday, the Forest Service stated that all lines on the Elizabeth fire continue to hold. The rain received over the weekend helped significantly with controlling the blaze. Traces of smoke may still be visible from interior smoldering. Full containment of that wildfire is expected over the next couple of days. In the world of sports, on Friday night, the Luray Bulldogs rolled over county rival Page 68-7 in both teams' season finale in football at Bulldog Field. Junior running back Kason Bryant racked up 124 yards on just 5 carries and scored 3 touchdowns for the Bulldogs. Sophomore Ryan Jenkins ran for 119 yards on 4 carries and a touchdown as well. Despite committing 4 turnovers, Luray still gained 571 yards of offense. Both local teams finished the season at 2-8. For only the second time in school history, Luray High School has qualified both the boys and girls cross-country teams for the state championships to be held this Saturday, November 16th at Virginia Tech. Between the boys and girls events, the 2 local high schools placed 6 runners among the top 10 finishers at the Region 2B meet in Verona on November the 6th. Top local finishers included Luray senior Anna Wood, who placed 3rd in the girls division at the region meet, while Page County junior Aaron Hensley finished 5th in the boys division. Page Junior Asher Kite also qualified for the state meet this weekend after placing 9th among 49 runners in the region. And finally, looking at the weekend ahead in the Page Valley, on Friday, November 15th from 7 to 9 p.m., Dwight Martin and Tommy Ruckert will be performing at Skyland Resort in Shenandoah National Park. Then on Saturday, November 16th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Trackside Theater in downtown Luray is hosting the Fall 2024 vendor event and craft fair titled Fall in Love with Trackside. And then from 1 to 3 p.m., Cooters Garage Band will be performing out at Cooters in the Valley. From 3 to 8 p.m., the Memslam Inn is hosting its annual Oyster Fest. From 7 to 9 p.m., Jeff Marble will be performing at Skyline Resort in Shenandoah National Park. And finally, on Sunday, November 17th, from 2 to 4 p.m., it's bluegrass music out at Cooters in the Valley. And that's the headlines for the past week right here in the Page Valley. And we're back inside the Page County home and art studio of local veteran and sculptor Joe Winslow. Joe, thanks for taking some time with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Now, for the folks who may not know you, I know you're involved in some civic organizations in Luray, and you've been living here 2 years?
Almost 9 years.
Almost 9 years.
Yes.
I was way off on that one.
Yes.
Almost 9 years. So I know a lot of folks in the community
Yes.
probably do know you.
Yes.
But for those who don't, give us a brief 60-second thumbnail on where you came from, where you served in the military,
Yep.
and how you got to Luray.
Okay, well, my wife and I moved to Luray here about 8 years ago. And we moved here from Northern Virginia, where I had retired after 21 years of service with the Marines.
Oh, wow. 21
So
years.
21 years. So spent a lot of time up in Northern Virginia. The last 4 or 5 years of my service in Quantico. And before that was all around the globe. Originally hailed from Texas and Kansas. And enlisted at 17 and just ended up my last few years in Quantico.
Okay, very well. Now let's go specifically into where you served in the Marine Corps. I know that you spent some time in Fallujah.
Yes.
In the Marines Operation Phantom Fury.
Yes.
This was in the early 90s, correct?
2004 and 2005.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So the second
Yes. The
engagement in Iraq.
Yeah, Desert Storm was the 90s.
Okay.
That included Kuwait and some other parts, generally Kuwait, and that was in the 90s. That was
Right.
Desert Storm, and then this is the post 9/11 involvement in the Middle East. My
Post
service.
9/11.
Yeah.
Okay, in Iraq
Yeah.
during Operation Phantom Fury. And how long were you in Iraq?
I was in Iraq for this last assignment for 7 months.
7 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And as Veteran Day rolls around each November, and we are filming this on Veterans Day, November 11th, do you relive some of those moments you experienced over in Iraq?
Oh, of course you do. Of course. I mean, it was a major part of my life, of my family's life, of my Marines that I worked with and served with. It's just a major event, so you think about it all the time, of course. Yeah.
And what would you say to the average American, the civilian, who may not fully understand
Yes.
military service and fully appreciate the experiences of combat?
Yes.
What would you say to them about the importance of Veterans Day?
Well, the importance of Veterans Day is really to remember those Marines who have made the ultimate sacrifice or other services in service to their country. And you think about that as you hear that line being said, and you think that everybody has the same amount of service, but some people serve and they don't come back. They make a small decision, a conscious decision, and they end up perishing or being wounded on the battlefield. And that's really what you need to remember with these young men and young women who are overseas in harm's way. They're daily making conscious decisions about how they're going to serve in a combat zone, knowing full well that those decisions might actually impact or get them killed. They
Right.
know it and they do it every single day. And that's really what we should remember about the young people serving today, is they are fully capable, they have agency, and they're doing it out of their choice. That's very, very special.
But not only, too, that they might give the ultimate sacrifice. But so many soldiers today, particularly since Iraq, with new weaponry, are coming back wounded. They're
Yes.
coming back amputees
Yes.
and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think that has led to the higher suicide rate that we've seen with soldiers and things like that. Is that something that you notice among veteran friends in terms of not the PTSD perhaps and the mental anguish, but just that there are so many more coming back that are not whole?
Well, men and women have come back from battle not whole since the beginning of time, and that's a job. That's a workplace hazard for us. It's you don't say it might happen, it might happen. It probably will happen. Is it a problem? Do my friends and associates have a problem with it? You know, we have a unique approach in the Marines, and everybody calls Marines skinny and angry, and it's a reason they do that, because when you have a problem, you go after it. You set your mind straight, and you go after it with all you've got, with a lot of passion, and that's what I've noticed, and that's what I've seen with a lot of Marines who've come back wounded. You've got to address the challenge. If you've been wounded or injured or you've got PTSD, you've got to attack that thing head on, straight on, and it's super, super difficult to do that.
Well, I feel like in the recent years there has been a lot more efforts to help those veterans.
Yes.
There's certainly been advances in prosthetics and things like that. So I think there is a lot more being done now than maybe in years past for those veterans.
I'll tell you, I was more concerned about being wounded or disabled than I was about dying. I would much rather have I would much rather have died on the battlefield than come back here and have to put my family through that to work with them, or to be horribly maimed. That was actually the worst fear, and that's most people's fears, is just being horrifically injured. So yeah, it's a big deal.
And more so not in what they can't do, but what the struggles of the family and all that.
Yeah, it's tremendously taxing on your family. Any combat service is always taxing on your family.
Well, let's cross over a little bit.
Okay.
And let's talk a little bit about your artistic side.
Yes.
How did you get into sculpting? How did you carry that over to your military service as a field historian and combat artist?
Yes. Started many moons ago in Catholic school with young Winslow, about this tall. I was probably 10 or 12 years old. I went to Catholic schools, and Sister Marietta came to me and she goes, "Joe, we need a gigantic Jesus on a crucifix for Mass tomorrow." Okay, so I came home and worked with my dad, and we pulled a bunch of scraps out of the garage, much like this one, and put together this huge crucifix. Big scraps of mirror, made a Jesus out of cardboard.
How old are you at this time?
I'm probably 10, 12 years old.
10 or 12 years old. How big was this creation?
7 feet tall.
7 feet tall.
7 feet tall.
And that was your first one?
This is my very first one. And so I was tagged at that point as the kid who does the artistic stuff, and then was just building things for the fairs and building stuff for the shows and the theater shows downtown, or in the basement of the church, and that kind of stuff from then on out, and then pursued those studies.
And then as you enter the Marine Corps, there's a crossover there. Now tell me what a combat artist does. How do you, are the bullets flying and you're drawing, or how does this work?
Yeah, I have a sketch pad in one hand and a rifle in the other.
Good.
Yeah, so the Marines, all Marines, first and foremost, are riflemen. We're all trained to be riflemen.
Right.
And so no matter what profession we have, whether flying a jet, driving a truck, or making biscuits, your first mission is going to be to carry the rifle and do what you need to do when the time comes. So every Marine does do that, and that was my job as well. I had a 9mm, a K-bar, and an M16, and a sketch pad in the other hand, and was either helping in the assault when it was needed, or staying out of the way when it was needed, and then in the evenings doing interviews, much like yourself, with Marines in battle, and then doing some sketches and artwork of that later.
I can't help but think of Saving Private Ryan and Corporal Upham. I don't know if you remember him, but he was the guy that wanted to take his typewriter into battle, and Tom Hanks looked at him and held a pencil up like that.
Yes.
And you didn't have to take a typewriter into battle.
No typewriter. But I did have a armored laptop.
An armored laptop? Now, what is that?
Laptop What's that?
What is an armored laptop? I
You
don't.
can throw it out of a 5-story building. You can dunk it in water. You can hit it with radiation. You can hit it with a sledgehammer, and it's still going to work.
And it's still a thin.
Oh no, it's a block. It's like that thick.
Oh wow.
And it's huge. Yeah.
Oh okay.
Yeah, and it's now in the Marine Corps Museum.
Oh,
as,
no
as a
kidding.
battle artifact. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was something they used 20 years ago. They don't use that anymore.
I'm sure they use something similar now.
Okay,
Yeah. This
okay.
this stuff we have in our offices here would be destroyed.
Well, not to stay on too long on this one topic, but you said you interviewed soldiers. You
Yeah.
said you did some drawings.
Yeah.
What was your goal or mission? Like, what was your assignment as an artist? What were
Yeah.
you there to get?
I had 2 missions.
Okay.
The first mission was as a field historian, and that's where I spend time with Marines in battle, observing what they do, listening to their stories, and then in the evenings interviewing them informally, much like we do, and making a written record of that for the Marine Corps Museum and the Archives Division. So then they take those interviews that I do and they put them into the Marine Corps Museum. So 20 years from now, they can say, what did Corporal Schmatz do in the Battle of Fallujah? And then you can tap it in. Up will come that record, and you'll be able to listen. Listen to my interview on tape, and read the summary I did of it to hear what he did in battle.
Wow.
Yeah, and part of that included bringing back battle artifacts. So when Corporal Smith would be given a Navy Cross, let's say, or a Bronze Star, I would be there, and I would talk with him that night, and we'd go over the details. I'd record all that, and then I'd get his uniforms if he'd give them up. We'd get his serial numbers off his rifle and his vehicle and all that kind of stuff. So when he retired, I got out, we could get all that into the museum, and they could say Corporal Smith did this particular action in battle.
Well,
And this was his rifle.
now the interviews and stuff that you had, did it ever cross over into that area of classified, or was it always open, wide open?
No. We don't do any classified work.
Okay. Okay.
Well, my interviews are not for public disclosure. They're for the archives. They're not. I'm not a reporter.
But if I
there's
wanted to
no
go in and look at
classified.
those archives, I could.
You do that tomorrow if you wanted to. Sure
Okay.
could.
Wow. Okay, that is very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, here locally in Luray, you run a business called Advanced Arts Management Incorporated.
Yes.
What is that, and what do you do?
I manage creative arts projects for government clients in D.C.
Okay.
So one example of that is I'm currently working with the White House and the U.S. Army to resculpt and reproduce all the presidential seals and plaques for all the bunkers, aircraft, and facilities worldwide for them.
Wow.
So they approached me a few years back, and they said, we need to automate this process, bring this into the 21st century,
Right.
and we're not sure how to do that. And they said, we understand you have some experience, and we'd like you to help us figure that out.
That sounds like a large project.
It's a long-term project. It's a large project, yes. And so my team and I, we go out and we say, if you're looking to do this type of creative work or this type of artistic project, here's the technology you need, here's how long it's going to take, here's your cost, and here's your training program. And we set all that up for them so that they can then say, okay, let's move forward with this program and then take those
So
actions.
you're managing the project,
Yeah.
not necessarily doing all of the detail work.
Some of the detail work, yes.
Some of the detail work.
Yes.
Okay.
So my creative eye guides the design and fielding of these final products.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think without my creative background, this would be able to work as well.
Wow, that is really intriguing. Now we're going to move into a little part about the memorial
Yes.
that you were a part of. When did you first meet Sabin Howard?
I met Sabin Howard like 5 or 6 years ago. He had some kind of veterans reception, and I thought that is pretty awesome. I need to go to that reception and just check it out. So called up there, got some tickets, and went. I think we were one of like 10 or 15 people in New York, and spoke with Tracy and Sabin, and they asked me about my story, and I told them my story, and they're like, that's a fantastic story. And I got a call from Sabin, said, you want to come up and be
A model.
a model? And I was like, of course, absolutely. What do I need to drop right now to come up?
And just for the viewer, Tracy is Sabin's wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that was going to ask you about how you became part of this. It's because you're one of only about 10 living veterans depicted
Yes.
in this new World War I memorial in
Yes.
D.C.
Yes.
And you just told us how you ended up becoming a model for it. So you are one of the images that is dragging a wounded soldier, holding up a wounded soldier, I believe.
I'm the chaplain,
You're the chaplain.
I'm the chaplain, and I'm standing next to a medic, a Navy medic.
Okay.
And we are evacuating a soldier who's been killed in action. We are recovering his body and bringing it back to the rear.
You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but
Yes.
have you ever been in that position yourself in battle?
I've seen more dead bodies and more combat action than I ever wanted to see. You bet.
Okay. Now, the 60-foot long linear sculpture is called A Soldier's Journey. During World War I, that's what it depicts. And it was unveiled in the Pershing Park in D.C. on Friday, September the 13th. Were you nervous or superstitious about that date? And how did the unveiling go?
No, until you mentioned it. I
didn't
didn't even
realize.
put two and two together on the 13th. The unveiling was fantastic. It was a ton of people. It was more awe-inspiring and more momentous than I ever would have thought.
Wow.
Yes. When you see it there at night, and you can see it lit and reflecting the way that Saban designed it, I have a very hard time finding adjectives to describe it.
Yeah.
But it will invoke in you and anybody who sees it a depth of feeling and a response that is visceral. And that response will be either, I can tell you for a fact, it will be either enormous pride in the country, it will be enormous pride in yourself or somebody who served, it will be a serious feeling of sadness or import. You will hit every single emotional feeling viewing it from start to finish. It hits every single human response.
Wow. Well, I tell you, I can truly believe that, because I've never seen a sculpture quite like that had so many
Yes.
images within the larger piece.
Yeah.
And how it tells a linear story
Yeah.
from the time that a soldier leaves home till he
Yes.
returns home. And it's
Yes.
an interesting
Yes.
concept. And, this entire project took nearly 5 years to complete. It was started in 2019.
Yes.
It cost $44 million.
Yes.
And the bronze work is 58 feet long, 10 feet high,
Yeah.
with 38 figures of doughboys and nurses. Now, how does it feel to know that your face and image is immortalized in our nation's capital in perpetuity in a national monument like this?
I'm enormously and forever grateful that I have a chance to represent the men and women I served with in Iraq on that memorial.
Wow.
That's it for me. I'm just enormously grateful for that.
Well,
Yeah.
well put. Well put. We're going to pause just for a quick moment to take another commercial break. Will you stick around and play a game called
I
the
will.
5 W's with
Let's
us?
do it. Let's
All
do it.
right,
Let's do it.
all right. We're going to do that in just a moment, but first, another message from our sponsor. At Luray Caverns, you can hear music of symphonic quality from ancient stone formations on the great stalacpipe organ, the largest musical instrument in the world. Only at Luray Caverns. Visit them online at luraycaverns.com to plan your trip today. And now we're back, and we're going to finish up by playing a quick Q&A game called the 5 W's. I'm going to ask you 5 simple questions about the who, what, when, where, why. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I bet you are. Marines are always ready,
Always
aren't
ready.
they? Always ready. Who has been your biggest inspiration in sculpting and art?
Yeah. My wife has been a great inspiration for me, but also my father has been an inspiration. His artwork and his sculpting, but also St. Gaudens, a big sculptor in the nation's capital, Daniel French, Saban Howard, and a few other people. I love those guys.
You know what? I meant to mention this in our last segment, and I do not remember the name now. You may know the name.
Yes.
But did you know that the sculptor of the Iwo Jima Memorial lived in Shenandoah County in a neighboring county?
You're kidding.
Max?
I know the name, but now that you've asked me about
I think it's Max.
I can't remember the name.
But no, I don't know if I don't think he was from there, maybe,
Yeah.
but I think he maybe retired
Okay,
there. I should
okay.
know this story, but I don't.
Yeah.
But I'll give you some. That'll give you some homework to look
Yes,
up there.
yes.
But the gentleman who sculpted the Iwo Jima Memorial, I
De
think in D.C.
Weldon. D. Weldon.
That sounds exactly
He
right.
is all over the memorial, of course, but his work is all over D.C. if you look for it. Yeah, he's all over the place.
And
He's
if you're not
fantastic.
if you're not aware of Shenandoah on Parade over at the Shenandoah Caverns,
Yes.
you might want to go check that out. What it is it's an old parade floats.
I've seen it.
You've seen it.
It's
okay.
amazing.
And they have a little.
It's amazing.
They have a little segment there that has the Iwo Jima Memorial and talks about
Holy cow.
the gentleman you just mentioned.
Holy
so maybe
cow.
you need to go back.
I do need to go back. I will. I love that place. I now need to go back.
All right.
Okay.
After that long segue, let's go
Okay.
back here to we did our who. So what inspired you to join the Marines?
I was the kid who grew up playing Army in the backyard with my pals. And I was also an artistic kid, too. And I was just trying to find some way to combine them. That's it.
Okay.
And I've always just wanted to be running around blowing stuff up as a kid in camouflage.
Do you have G.I. Joes?
Of course I had GI. Yes. Yes.
When did you first get paid for a piece of artwork?
That's great. Till you asked me about that, I really cannot recall. But that was probably in grade school.
Really?
Oh, no, it was high school. It was with the distributive education program, and Mr. Jones asked me to design a shirt for spring break, and I designed a T-shirt for spring break, and it sold out in like 4 days. And that was
kidding.
that. Yes, that was when I realized, wow, I can design something people are interested, and I can make money on it.
Do you remember what the design was?
Yeah, it was a kid with a blonde mohawk and some blues and reds on a surfboard on a wave surfing into spring. I remember that to this day. That was the first real commercial project I ever had.
Excellent, excellent. I'll be polite and not ask you how much you made on it.
Yeah,
But
almost nothing. Almost nothing.
where can I see your work?
Well, you can see my work in the White House. You can see my work.
Really?
Oh yeah, you can see my work in the National Museum of the Marine Corps.
Let's go back to the White House for
Yes.
a second. What's in the White House?
Yes. One of my first commissions in D.C. was hand sculpting presidential seals for the Situation Room in the White House.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have my actually handwork, hand-painted seals, presidential seals in the White House now.
No kidding. And you were listing some other places where we could see your work.
I have my combat art is in the National Museum of the Marine Corps, including a replica, the original bronze of this replica to my rear,
Okay.
which was accessioned earlier this year.
Okay.
And of course, all my combat sketches and combat art have been accessioned into the permanent collection. So you can see it, National Museum of the Marine Corps, in some private collections, the White House, and some other places coming up as well.
This piece you were referencing behind you caught my
Yes.
eye immediately.
Yes.
Is it about anything in particular, a particular battle or a particular unit or
Yes.
anything?
That is a typical action that I would have witnessed in Iraq 1,000 times. And this is a tribute to those who were killed in those assaults. And so you're looking at these Marines coming out of armored vehicles, breaching the building, and then clearing the building, killing the insurgents, and then moving on. That's a tribute to them, what we would have seen, and it's to document a typical engagement in Fallujah.
I love the detail in that piece. That's
Thank you.
excellent.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
Well, we're going to end up with our why, as we always do. Why is Sabin Howard's World War I Memorial in Washington, D.C. so important in terms of both the art world
Yeah.
and telling a piece of our nation's history?
Okay, so the history thing is that, I'll do that, but the art world in particular, because it's a tribute to the Western ideals that have put us where we're at today as a country. Hard work, dedication to family, dedication to an ideal, personal sacrifice, dedication to a larger ideal, and doing what you have to do on a regular basis to ensure the lifestyle we enjoy in this country. So first and foremost, that's it. And it's not some whitewashed, postmodern, or interpretive thing. It's a very clear and visceral, artistic representation of the joy, the agony, the pain, the accomplishment, the trials, the tribulations of what it means to serve this country and what it means to live with those decisions. It's a visceral, visual guidebook to what Americans in World War I did to defend our country and our families here. Yeah.
Very well put.
Yeah, well, thanks,
Very well
thanks.
put.
And-
Well, we want to say thank you to Joe Winslow for being with
Oh,
us
thank
here
you.
today,
Yeah,
and we want to thank you for spending time with us. We want to thank you for your military service.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you for your community service that I know
Wow.
you've done since you've been
Yes.
here in Luray as
Proud
well.
to,
So,
proud to. We've always been welcomed here in Luray by everybody, and we really enjoy it.
well, we are better off for having you here.
Oh, geez. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, we also want to say thank you to Eleanor Arrington for all of her work behind the camera today and in the editing room this week. If you like today's video, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Page Valley News right there on YouTube. And also, finally, as we always say, make sure you visit our furry friends down at the Page County Animal Shelter and help them find a forever home. Until next week, I'm Randy Arrington saying enjoy that Page Valley living.